the best blacksmith in the village, was miserable. Everyone wanted his work, but nobody wanted to be near him. He had the strongest hands in 3 villages, but the weakest peace of mind. His wife had left. His son barely spoke to him. Neighbors crossed the street to avoid him. Why? Because every comment, every opinion, every casual word sent him into a rage that lasted for days. One wrong look could ruin his entire week. Have you ever felt like everyone's words are weapons aimed directly at you? Like you're trapped in a battlefield of opinions? This is the story of what finally set him free. Rajan was the village blacksmith, the best for miles around. His horseshoes never cracked, his tools never bent, his church bell rang clearer than any other. Farmers traveled from distant villages just to commission his work. They would wait weeks, sometimes months, just to have something forged by his hands. But despite his skill and reputation, he was known throughout the region as the angry man. One wrong word and his face would turn red, his jaw would clench, and the argument would begin. He was a master of iron but a slave to everyone's opinions. Success in his hands, suffering in his heart. Every single morning the cycle began. Mrs. Sharma would comment that his fence needed repair. Rajan would snap at her and stew for hours, replaying the conversation, imagining what he should have said. Young boys making noise near his shop. He'd yell until they scattered, then feel guilty. But his pride never allowed him to apologize. His brother offered advice about raising his son. They wouldn't speak for weeks, sometimes months. At night, Rajan lay awake replaying every argument, rehearsing sharper comebacks, building resentment brick by brick. He was the most skilled craftsman in the region, yet he was utterly miserable. Sleep escaped him. Peace felt like a foreign concept. The irony tortured him. People trusted him with their most important metalwork, wedding rings, farming tools, ceremonial bells, but didn't trust him with their friendship. He had everything a man could want from his labor: respect, income, demand for his work, and nothing a man needs from life. His workshop was always full. His heart was always empty. Then came the church bell commission, the highest honor in the village. Rajan poured 3 months of soul into forging it. At the unveiling, most praised it beautifully, but old Mr. Patel muttered, a bit too high-pitched, if you ask me. Rajan exploded publicly, smashed tools in his workshop, declared he was leaving the village forever. That night, his son Arjun, who rarely spoke to him anymore, quietly entered the workshop. "Papa," he said softly, "can I show you something?" Rajan, exhausted and broken, followed his boy into the moonlight. Arjun led him to the old pond at the edge of the village. The moon reflected perfectly on the still water, a flawless mirror of light floating on the surface. The boy picked up a stone and threw it in. Ripples shattered the reflection immediately, spreading outward in circles, hitting the edges, bouncing back, creating complete chaos on the surface. The beautiful moon was gone, replaced by distorted fragments. They watched in silence as the ripples slowly faded. "My teacher says when you throw a stone, the water has no choice. It must react," Arjun explained quietly. "Ripples everywhere, chaos on top." But she also said something else. He pointed down into the depths of the pond. Deep at the bottom, the water never moves at all. No matter how many stones people throw, the surface fights every single stone. The depths are always still. He looked directly at his father. "You live on the surface, Papa. You've been living there my whole life." The next morning, Mrs. Sharma commented on his overgrown garden. Rajan felt the familiar heat rising in his chest, the anger forming words in his throat. Then he remembered the pond. He imagined the stone hitting the surface, and he chose not to ripple. "You're probably right," he said calmly, genuinely. "Blacksmithing keeps me very busy." He smiled and walked on. Mrs. Sharma stood there speechless. Her stone hadn't worked. 1 week later, a traveling merchant shortchanged him on payment. Old Rajan would have exploded, made a scene, carried the rage for days. New Rajan paused, felt the anger rising like a ripple on the surface, acknowledged it, and calmly said, "I think there's been a mistake in the counting." The issue was resolved in 30 seconds. No rage, no sleepless night. 3 months later, everything had changed. Arjun spent evenings in the workshop again, learning the craft, talking, laughing. Neighbors approached Rajan without fear or hesitation. His ex-wife visited one afternoon. "You seem ... different, peaceful." Rajan smiled warmly. "I finally stopped living on the surface." The mayor commissioned another bell for a neighboring village. Word had spread not just of his unmatched skill, but of his transformed character. You cannot stop people from throwing stones, but you can choose to live at the depth where the water never moves. The surface will always ripple with others' words. The bottom is always still. Stop living on the surface. If this story touched something deep in you, let it remind you, their stones don't have to become your ripples. Share this with someone who's been living on the surface, and tell me in the comments what stone has been creating ripples in your life.